Hi, my name is Mark Weichel, and I'm an assistant superintendent with Omaha Westside Community Schools in the area of teaching and learning. And so the presentation that we're going to share with you, a lot of different resources that we have from our district and areas that we've taken from different spots, but just to talk about digital tools for leaders. And so what I've asked is the team from Omaha Westside here to join me in preparing just some of the lessons and the different things that we use. So really quickly here, I'd like to just introduce the team of three other people that will be sharing digital tools for leaders here for you in just a minute.
Thanks, Mark. I'm Matt Lee. I'm the coordinator for technology integration for Westside Community Schools. And so I have the privilege and honor of working with our teachers and staff on how best to utilize the technology in their classroom, which plays a large role with our personalized learning initiative and blended in general.
Hi, I'm Greg Betts. I'm the Director of Professional Learning, and I'll be talking today about different pieces of the professional learning that we've done here at Westside using technology in a flipped and blended classroom environment.
Hey, I'm Paul Lindgren. I'm the Director of Technology for Westside Community Schools. I'm actually out on location. I'm in Flagstaff, Arizona, actually up at the historic Lowell Observatory where they discovered Pluto many years ago. And so if I bop in and out, it might maybe be due to my internet connectivity out here, but it's good to be a part of the group here.
Yeah, so it's kind of neat. We're kind of modeling how you could use this yourself. Greg, can you maybe set the mood for us a little bit here and tell us, when we talk about blended learning and we talk about flipped learning, maybe what the difference is or how those work together?
Sure, Matt. And I know you're going to get more in depth on this, but when we think about what blended learning is, we're thinking about blended learning really to us is at any time a student learns under the direction of a teacher and learns in part through an online delivery system, with student voice and choice. The difference with blended learning and flipped learning is with the flipped learning experience, there is no adult interaction afterwards. There's no reflection conversation. So if I want to go out and learn something on my own, I'm going to do a flipped learning experience. I'm not coming back to a group or to other people to talk about what I've learned. And the nice, when we think about blended learning is now we're leveraging that technology in a flipped environment, bringing it back in under the guidance and direction of the classroom teacher.
All right. Well, today what we're going to try to run through is we've came up with 3 different themes under the topic of digital tools for leaders. And so we're just going to hit those 3 themes, and those 3 themes are building your professional learning network, online collaboration tools, one of which we're demonstrating right now, and then content aggregation tools, which are ways for you to use digital tools to access just a wealth of information in a meaningful form for you to consume. And so the first theme that we're going to be hitting on here is building and utilizing a professional learning network. And if you're not familiar, a professional learning network is basically what it sounds like. It's a network of individuals and resources that you can reach out to and you can connect with. And if you have questions, you can ask them and you get exposed to new ideas. And a lot of that people had developed with face-to-face relationships. With technology, you can really expand those networks to be something bigger than you could have ever imagined. And so just 3 tools that you can use to do that are Facebook, Twitter, and Google Plus communities. And so I'm going to start off here showing you Facebook. And so when we think of Facebook, this is something that I think most people probably use in their personal lives, but it's amazing the things that you can do with Facebook from a professional point of view. And so I'm going to show you one example. And Facebook groups are something that is just absolutely amazing. And if you haven't been using Facebook groups professionally, I'd recommend at least taking a look and seeing what's out there because there's a lot of good stuff. One example here is the Facebook group for Breakout EDU. If you don't know, Breakout EDU is kind of a newer trend in education where it involves solving puzzles and looking at clues and kind of an inquiry-based approach and an exploring approach to having kids learn content. And there's a wealth of resources here on Facebook where people pose questions, they answer each other's questions, they post resources, And it's just a way to get people to connect together, share ideas, and help each other out. And so kind of if we think about the model of technology, this is going through and just kind of replacing that face-to-face conversation, but just magnifying it and allowing a space for people to come together that's organized around a topic, in this case, Breakout EDU, but letting people share and explain those ideas with each other. So that was Facebook, which is a great way to go ahead and post long-form content, pictures, resources, and connect with people around a topic. Next up, we have Twitter, which is similar, but just slightly different. Greg, do you want to maybe explain to us a little bit about Twitter?
Absolutely. So, we think of Twitter, it's really a micro-blogging platform. You have 140 characters that you can use. You can post links and other resources, the hashtags, which most people are familiar with. But really to talk about today is how do you use or leverage Twitter for your professional learning network. And Matt, I think you're going to go into some lists here.
Yeah, lists are pretty cool. So let me pull those up here.
Yeah, so the neat thing about a list is if I only want to follow like a certain group, maybe it's my professional learning network or it's the teaching and learning team here at the ABC, I can just have that list, and it really speeds up the content delivery to me, so I can go in and just check on those people or those groups to see what people are tweeting out, and it really saves you a lot of time than having to scroll through the entire posts of everyone that you're following.
And I would just, if I can, chime in a little bit about how I've used these. In my former life, I was a social studies teacher at the high school, and I taught economics and AP economics. And so what was helpful to me was I assembled a list of people who were like me, who taught economics or different economic think tanks or The Economist magazine, and assembled all of them together into an econ list. And so I could just click on that and see all of the things from people who typically posted about economics. Another one that I did was assemble a list of everybody who works at Westside. And so if I wanted to see kind of what the vibe was going around the different buildings or what people were up to, I could go ahead and just click on my Westside list, and then I'd be able to see tweets from them. Same thing with Apple Distinguished Educator communities, Nebraska Education Technology folk, and the like.
Mm-hmm. And Matt, one of the things that Paul always talks about is the former Twitter CEO always talked about, it's important to tweet out, to make sure that you're tweeting, but it really is important about who you follow. And talking about our professional learning networks or PLNs, that is really important here, to make sure you have people that you follow that when you said just like me, it's, just like me or just like themes that I'm really interested in. So having a list can be very powerful for what you're doing.
All right. I think the next tool we wanted to kind of mention here real quick was one that people might overlook a little bit because it's kind of one of those things where it didn't really catch on in the mainstream too much, but from an education perspective and from something you could implement in your building, it's a really nice tool. And what I'm talking about here is Google+. And so for those of you that aren't aware, Google+ is Google's kind of answer to Facebook groups or to different communities. And in Google+, you can create your own group. They call them communities. And in that community, you can post things, you can ask questions, you can post resources. And for example here, I have one about the FlexMod Society, which is a community that's made up of people who are interested in using a flexible modular schedule at their school. And so you can see here there's 189 people that are part of this. You can go ahead and you can see all the posts that people make. And so there's surveys that say, how many hours of learning per class do you expect by students in face-to-face time, not homework, but personal learning time. You can post pictures. You can ask questions, like I said, of each other. You can have topical areas where people put in, resources related to a topic. And it's just a way for you to go and connect with each other. And so I think you've seen through each one of these three tools, Facebook groups, Twitter, Google+ community, all of them are designed to bring people together, to share resources, to ask questions and get those questions answered.
Well, one thing that we have learned with professional development and what the research will tell you is that if you learn a new idea and that you're excited about doing something with it, that if you don't do anything with it in the next 24 to 48 hours, you're not going to do anything with it. So what we would like to have you do is turn and talk to a partner, somebody else that's in the room with you, and just have a conversation around what are those one, two, or maybe even three things that really resonated with you with what you just heard. Maybe it's something with Facebook. Maybe it's something with Twitter, or maybe it's with the Google community. I know for me personally, I use Twitter, but I don't use the Twitter lists. And so that's one thing that I could really see myself using next school year to help me use that tool just a little bit better. So at this point, please hit pause for the next 5 minutes.
Our next theme of our session here is online collaboration for leaders. What are some ways that you can touch bases with and communicate with other kind of birds of a feather, in a sense, to be able to learn things from them and to talk about problems you might be having, etc. There's a lot of different ways that are available for us. Many of these, the ones we're going to focus on now, have to do with some kind of a video connection. The first one is Google Hangouts, and that's exactly what we're doing right now. I'm in Arizona. Matt looks like he's at home, and Greg and Mark are in the office, and we're able to have this collaboration, video-based, audio-based, putting up different screens. And all of this is free as a Google Hangout. So it can be a one-to-one thing if you want to, or it can be several people to several people, larger groups. But really the reasons for using something like that is it's a time when you can have group meetings, when people are geographically separated, or kind of what we're doing here is when we want to capture a discussion for other people to look at and participate in later, to view later. So this as a service is free, not as sophisticated as some of the other systems, Cisco systems, or I hate to mention specific ones, but there's a lot of systems that you can pay for that might be higher quality, but really the Google free is really a really good way to get good enough quality and accomplish what you're trying to do.
The next one I wanted to show was just FaceTime and Skype, which are two that I think people are fairly familiar with, but the difference with these being where Google Hangouts, you could go and it makes it really easy for either one-to-one or group collaboration. FaceTime is really set up for just one-to-one, and it's Apple specific, so that might be a plus or a negative depending on the environment that you have. The other cross-platform one then being Skype, where it's free if you're doing one-to-one, but I believe they still require a pro account for group collaboration. So if you want something free and easy that's cross-platform, Skype works on every kind of device: iPad, Android, Windows, Mac. Skype will be a kind of the generic cross-platform one-to-one collaboration tool for that.
Matt, we've actually used Skype with some guidance counselors and classroom teachers that are connecting and actually doing parent-teacher conferences with parents that are separated at a distance from their students. So it's a really great kind of interpersonal, intimate way to communicate with just one person to one person or small numbers.
Awesome. Hey, I think the next one up you're going to talk about, and I kind of find it really exciting. What's this Periscope?
Periscope is something I've just started a little bit with. I haven't really done much broadcasting, but the idea behind Periscope is that it's a platform where you can actually do kind of off-the-cuff, informal broadcasts to your followers. And I think it ties into your Twitter followers. So when you sign up with Periscope, it's an app that you can put on a mobile device, and you can turn it on, and as soon as that happens, you start recording the audio video, then the people that are on Periscope that are your followers immediately get a notification and knowing that you're ready to broadcast. So in some ways you can do scheduled if you want to, or it's just a really nice way to do unscheduled, off-the-cuff things. one person that I really have seen use a lot is Tony Vincent, who does a lot of speaking at different conferences. He's a very heavy user of Periscope right now. Last week at ISTE, he was doing several different broadcasts of poster sessions and things like that. And it's just a way, whenever he starts to broadcast, I get a notification on my phone, and if I have time, I can click in and see what he has to say. Matt, you know a little bit better than I do. How did one of our students, Mr. Powers, use Periscope in his classroom a few months ago?
Yeah, so Mr. Powers was doing a review session, and he knew there were some students that wouldn't be able to make it into the school building on a Saturday to come in and do the review. And he set up his phone on a little tripod mount and was able to broadcast a review session using Periscope, and so kids at home could log in and watch and see what was going on. So if I were just to summarize what you're saying, when we look at Google Hangouts, we're talking about a great medium for either one-to-one or many-to-many type communication. When we're looking at Skype and FaceTime, it's more of that one-to-one direct communication. And then when we look at Periscope, it's more of a one-to-many. Would you say that's right?
Exactly. Exactly. And again, there are other systems like this in the world that cost money to do the same thing. These are all basically free things that you can do.
And I would say too, just thinking about the live interaction collaboration piece, it really helps too if you need someone to come in for professional learning or to really leverage that leadership piece. It's just so convenient to bring somebody in to help talk to your group or problem solve or reflect on a problem that you have too.
So that last group of items that we just learned about are really an interesting way that you can collaborate real time with who your learners or who your audience might be. And the cool thing with those three items, with the Google Hangout, Skype, and Periscope, is it can be real time, or you can archive it and use it later. So what we'd like to have your teams do again is maybe think a little bit differently this time, but think about what's the one thing that you're going to do in the fall that you might be able to do something just a little bit differently to show that blended learning component with yourself as a leader, whether it's using that Google Hangout, Skype, or Periscope. So again, if you would hit pause on the video and take 5 minutes to have that conversation.
All right, so our final theme here of kind of digital tools for leaders is really looking at content aggregation tools. And so by content aggregation, I mean going out, finding all of the different information that's out there and putting it together in a form that's helpful for you to use, just kind of a way to organize things. The first one that I wanted to talk about here is an app that I really like, and I happen to be showing this on the iPad, but it's available in lots of different platforms, including the web, and you can use it on your computer, is Pocket. And so if we take a look at Pocket, Pocket got its start as kind of a read it later service. So as you're surfing across the web and you find different items that you're like, I would like to read this, but I don't have time, you can go and you can save those. So get more from Nita, I can click on that, and it's going to go out and it's going to get a copy of whatever that website was and allow you to use it. The other piece, though, that's nice is if we go to the recommended page, this has you go in and you can follow people, and when you get in there, it'll actually go through and search through people you follow, things that you've read before, and come up with stories that it thinks you might be interested about. Now, Greg, I think you had one that you wanted to share with us here?
Sure. So this next one is called Nuzzle. So just reading some things here from what people are saying about Nuzzle. It really is a super easy way to see news from your friends. So it's your friends that are supplying the news, not the actual newspaper. Nuzzle was created to solve the problems of social overload, like trying to decide what to read and where to go. So if you're following your friends on Twitter or Facebook, you're usually going to have some common interests, and you can see what news they're following. But yeah, you can use Nuzzle to discover the best news stories shared by friends on Facebook and Twitter without being overwhelmed or feeling like you're missing out on anything. it really does start to personalize the news that you are wanting to read and are interested in.
Definitely. And I think just to add in a little bit, one of the cool things about it is exactly what you said. These are stories that my friends have posted on Facebook or posted to Twitter, but it also has a section that they call Friend of Friends. So now it takes what the friends of my friends have posted, and the reason why that's important is it allows you to kind of expand your scope of stories. So you're not in that one echo chamber. You get a little bit new ideas thrown in there and mixed in.
Yeah, it's really nice when you start to follow people that are sharing the same kind of stories, because you're going to have very common interests, and you don't have to sort through as much stuff that maybe you're not interested in reading about.
So the last kind of content aggregator that we wanted to demonstrate here today was Flipboard. And Flipboard has been around for a while, but what Flipboard is, it's a customizable magazine that you can enter in topics that you're interested in, you can enter people that you're interested in, or you can make your own magazine and share it with others. So I have a magazine that's dedicated to the topic of teaching. And what this does is it goes out to the internet, it looks for different sites and things that have the keyword teaching or learning or education in it, and it assembles all of those together for me, and I have it in one spot, and if I want to click to read more, I can just tap on it, it comes up with the actual article, and then I can actually prune it, or I can guide it. So if I really like that site and I like that article, I can click the heart on the bottom and like that, and it'll start to give me more from that source. If I don't like it, I can tell it that too, and it would give me less from that source. You can also create your own magazine. And so one of the individuals that I think highly of in kind of the education technology sphere is Josh Allen, a former past president right now, and he has his own Flipboard channel. And so if I click on his Flipboard channel, these are all articles or websites or stories that he found value in, that he wanted to share with others, and he put into his Flipboard magazine. And now I can go through and I can see the channels that he's created, and I can see the stories that he posts. So one of the ways that you might use this being an educational leader is you could create your own Flipboard for staff to follow, with articles to read, ideas to try. You could make a Flipboard for your school and link to different articles on your school website or videos that you posted. And it's a really nice way to kind of aggregate everything together based on topics, based on themes, based on who you follow and things that you're interested in.
Okay, in the last few minutes, you've learned various tools that we've been able to share with you from here at Omaha Westside Community Schools and also Arizona. And what we'd like to have you do at this point is just think back to the original title of this presentation, Digital Tools for Leaders, and we'd like for you to summarize what you've learned today. What is your big takeaways that you have? And we'd like to practice what we preach a little bit, because Twitter was one of the tools that we used early on. We'd like for you to think about how to summarize this session in 140 characters or less. If you'd like to do it on a little scratch paper, you can do that, or if you'd actually like to tweet it out, you certainly would welcome you to do that as well. So in 140 characters or less, what did you take from today's session on digital tools for leaders?